Welcome to True Parent for Life. I'm your host, Christina Vera.
And I'm your co-host, Maylin Sambois.
Welcome back for another exciting, engaging episode. Today, we're excited to have a guest co-host with us, a gentleman that I've been able to learn more about professionally, but learning more about just his personal journey and contributions to youth here in Central Ohio. Raylon Almon, welcome to the show.
Happy to be here.
So Raylon, I was really intrigued. Sometimes when you I always find it's pretty cool when you can Google people and stuff actually does pop up. And I didn't really ever start thinking about Googling people until probably about, when Google really started to come about.
Ago.
Yeah. And so, wanting to learn more about your professional journey, I did Google you. And I saw all of this basketball, clips and videos and just amazing kind of track record of what you've been able to do so far just when you were younger and some of the work you're still presently doing. So I noticed that you are a graduate here from Central Ohio, Beechcroft High School.
Yes.
You were a all-star, your team went and you had tons of titles. And then you actually were able to play basketball in Alaska. I just have so many questions just about the Alaska piece, but tell us a little bit about just your journey and your love for basketball. When did that start for you and how did it evolve to you end up playing in college?
Basketball was something that was given to me by my father. He's told me 1.5, I don't remember, but it's just something I gravitated towards when I was young and watching games with him on Sundays, NBA or NBC, watching Jordan play and stuff like that. And he got me into a basketball league at Barnett when I was 5. And from that point, I just fell in love with it. I didn't want to do anything else. I wanted to go play basketball any and everywhere. Any opportunity I had, I would do it. And my career led me to Beechcroft High School. I graduated in 2004. Sounds old, right?
Right. Well, I'm 03, so I'm older than you.
Yeah, but still, we had some pretty good runs there. My sophomore and junior year, we went to the state Final Four 2 years in a row. It was a game away from playing LeBron, just this close.
I know.
Wow.
That was the time. LeBron, people don't know that LeBron is as young as he is. He was in high school when we were in high school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
He actually came out your year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did.
So,
he played over at ODU. There was a big game over there, Ohio Dominican. He was there. And then the Schottensteins Arena, they played down there.
Absolutely. So that was a good, I call that the golden era of Columbus basketball in my time. We was a game away from playing them 2 years in a row. And just from that point, I got a scholarship to play basketball in Alaska. After I graduated.
So you think Alaska, because I've seen documentaries on Alaska, and I was just like, yeah, that could not be me. So I'm just curious. So when you got that letter and you're like Alaska, what appealed to you about playing ball over there?
Well, the funny thing about that is that I initially was committed to go to a black college called Morgan State in Baltimore. Mm-hmm. And one of my mentors in high school, Sean Fountain, he came and saw me working out. And he asked me what I was doing. And I said, I'm going to school in Morgan State. He's like, Alaska Anchorage is ready to offer someone a full scholarship right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, Alaska, man, be quiet, whatever.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And he just was like, nah, seriously, think about it. They play on ESPN. It's Alaska, dog.
Mm-hmm.
How many opportunities do you have the chance to say you go to Alaska? So the assistant coach was from Columbus. He went to Weatherston Christian.
Oh, okay.
His name is Brian Weekly. And he was like, hey, I'm looking for a Columbus guy, a gritty kid that can play. And what you got for us? And we spent the whole summer of 2004 communicating, and he sent me that letter of intent, and it was from there. It was beautiful. So I landed in Anchorage. I remember it was crazy because I left here at 6 a.m. And when I landed in Anchorage, it was noon. But I flew for 9 hours total.
Wow.
And I'm like, yo, I'm all turned around.
Yeah.
I get there, and as soon as I get off the plane, I got my coaches there greeting me, and the one guy from Columbus just gave me this big hug and said, all right, let's get your bags unpacked and go straight to the gym. Mm-hmm. I'm like, dude, I've been flying for 9 hours.
Wow.
He's like, I don't care. You're a college athlete now. It's time to get on the floor and play.
Oh, wow.
But that year was unique. It was very, very eye-opening for me about the struggles of being a collegiate athlete. Mm-hmm. But not only that, 4,000 miles away from home. I mean, I land there, it's daylight until midnight. It's 45 degrees, but people are wearing shorts and sandals.
Wow.
I'm not understanding why. It was August. I get it, it's summertime, but I'm freezing. But the culture was so unique. I started seeing a lot of people from different backgrounds, and my teammates was very diverse. And that was pretty fun just to get around a bunch of guys that was from different backgrounds and trying to be cohesive and try to obtain a bigger goal.
Wow. So once you got there and you were playing over in Alaska, were there any like major differences, like just even culturally, that were just different than what you experienced here?
Yes. I mean, well, coming from an inner city school in Columbus Public Schools, you go to a school that's not what you used to. That's a culture shock.
Yeah.
And then I'm starting to see a lot of indigenous people there, which is the indigenous Eskimo, people, whether they were Athabascan Indian or whether you pick Eskimo, different, regional Eskimo culture. That was unique. And then the food, just the different places to go eat. It was just everything was at your disposal. And I had to get accustomed to what's what, what am I accustomed to? What am I used to? And then venture out and try new things. And just I had a teammate from Australia.
Wow.
And his parents would come over and cook cuisines. I had another Swedish guy who was from Sweden. His parents were Swedish. And it was just different. Everything was different.
Yeah.
It wasn't like going around the corner to Popeyes.
Wow.
It's like everybody has something unique that they bring to the table. And you just, get exposed to that. It was pretty cool.
Now, as you were kind of like in that process of, like you say, you're 4,000 miles away. And I think oftentimes a lot of our listeners or people just we engage with, they're kind of afraid to make big decisions like that, whether it be, the failure aspect of like, what if I go there and I fail or this is a flop? But really like being out in a place by yourself oftentimes can be kind of crippling in itself because you feel like I can't do this by myself. So what was that process like for you in making the decision like, no, I'm going to go and I'm going to do this? And how did you kind of get through that mindset piece of transitioning from a place that you were very much comfortable, very much successful, people knew who you were, they knew what you were about, you have family here, and then uprooting to a place like Alaska where you essentially were having to recreate an entire life and name for yourself?
I got the strength from my father. My father was a well-renowned musician growing up. He played for this band called the Buckeye Politicians. And probably older viewers and listeners would know who they are. But they played all over the world. He lived in Saint-Tropez, France for like a year, lived in London, England for a year. He lived in all these places. And they lived in New York City for some time. And he just told me, he said, there's life outside of 270. So just give it a shot. He's like, there's not many chances in life where someone can offer you an opportunity like this. Just take it. What you got to lose? And like you said, you mentioned failure. People are afraid to fail. I had a fail safe. I knew if things didn't work out, Columbus is right here.
Right.
So that gave me the confidence to go out there and just be myself and try to establish who I was out there. And that was that transition was a little bit more difficult than I thought it would be, being that you could go from like school to school and, it's always a transition going from 5th grade to 6th grade, go from 8th grade to 9th grade. Now I'm going from an 18-year-old senior in high school to being 18 and a freshman in college in a totally different area.
Right.
But that was the thrill of it all, though, just getting a chance to see who you truly are. And can you adapt? Are you, truly a person who's like a hermit crab, or are you an open butterfly that can, associate with anything and anyone else?
Did you ever had, this is good, right? But were there any times that you're like, I don't know if this is going to be for me? And let's talk about those moments for a minute.
Yes. You always have doubts. It always creeps in your mind. Anything you do, people who are successful, they always have doubts. It's just who can supersede those thoughts with, things that's actually going forward. But me, I did. Every time it was conditioning and working out, I'm like, is this for me? Like,
I ask myself that 3 times a week. I'm like, do I care that much?
I'm married. You're like,
I'm married. I'm like, he better love it because I'm tired. I don't want to work out no more.
I'm looking at the banners like, did everybody have to do this? Like,
Right.
But then I actually had a time where I did say this is not for me. And that was towards the end of the year, my freshman year of college, where things didn't go well in the basketball court. It didn't go as I thought they should have went. And that's me being naive, not understanding the business aspect of college basketball. And I just said to myself, I'm transferring out of here. And I made my mind up, and I just said that this wasn't for me. I think God had something else in store for me. And around April of 2005, that's when I was like, I'm gonna just go elsewhere and do something else.
Is that what happened?
That's exactly what happened.
So what was that something else?
I came back home, and I was trying to figure out if I want to continue playing college basketball. I just had the doubt creep in my mind. I was like, this is difficult. This is hard. You know, I mean, in high school, you got periods, you got teachers who's on your back, and this and that. College is different. You got a syllabus. You got to follow that. If you don't follow that, it's your fault.
Yeah.
And I wasn't accustomed to someone holding me to be accountable.
The discipline aspect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what I lacked. So I came home for about a year and a half. I wasn't doing anything at all. And then I decided, I said, no, I'm seeing all my peers pass me up playing ball. I'm like, let me get back into school. So I went to Columbus State.
Okay.
I enrolled in Columbus State in 2007. I had to earn myself a scholarship. And after a quarter of doing what I needed to do, I earned a basketball scholarship to Columbus State and played there for a season.
Nice.
And then that helped you for your next step after that.
Yeah, it took me to the next college, which was Bluefield State College. That's where I graduated from, HBCU in Bluefield, West Virginia. They offered me a full scholarship from what I did over at Columbus State. And I think the biggest thing was altering your mindset as to applying yourself in all aspects. So I made it a point to where when I came back to Columbus State, it was like a resurrection for not only basketball, but academically and for the next phase of life after school. So I wanted to make sure that once I committed to this, I committed to being successful in all aspects of being a college athlete. So from that point moving forward, I did not miss a 3.0 until I graduated at all.
That's awesome. Now there is kids. My brother went to play football. I went to college and he had a hard time, right? So I'm thinking about those people that are listening to us now. Maybe their kids are in school or themselves find this podcast somehow. What would you tell that person, that young you, right? That was making the decision so hard and felt like this is not for me. I'm alone. Like, what am I doing here? What would you tell that kid now that may not have a fallback plan? Like,
be resilient. I mean, how many times in life have you fell down and got right back up? I mean, it's cliche and it's corny, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
You always hit walls and hit obstacles. I mean, every road is not smooth. This is Columbus. We got potholes everywhere, right?
Yeah, for real.
But we still get to the destination,
right?
Correct? We still circumnavigate those things and get to where we need to go. And that's what I would tell my younger self. It's like, hey, you're going to have bumps in the road. You're going to have obstacles. But that's why you have the ability to go around them or go over them or go through them.
Yeah.
It's just a decision. Do you want to succumb to the doubt, succumb to that stuff and fall victim to it? Or do you want to tap into inner self that you probably don't know that you have?
Right.
And push through. And that's the biggest thing that I would tell myself and younger viewers and listeners.
I love when you said that when you were at Columbus State, like it was kind of like a resurrection. And I feel like that's powerful because I think you have to get to a point of you really saying like, what do I want? Like, do I want to play ball? Do I want to start this business? Do I want to graduate? Do I even want to be in college? Because oftentimes we get shuffled along, I think is partially what I feel like, even thinking back to myself or people that I meet, I'm like, why are you doing this? And they're like, you know what? My mom told me to go to school for this, or like, this was just kind of like the next best thing, or why did you marry? I don't know. We have been together 6 years. It just felt like the time was right. And so it's just the resurrection. I like that the way you said that, because I think to get to a place of saying, you know what, at the end of the day, like, how do I want to show up? How do I want to carry out my life? How do I want to be, the best version of myself? And people come to that realization at different points in life. Like it may not always happen at a young, 20-something-year-old you, or, even if you're 40, 50-something years old. But when you get to that resurrection point and saying like, nah, this is not what I want to do, or yes, this is what I want to do, and you own that and you create like habits and disciplines around showing up in that space, there's such power in that I feel like you just walk differently, you breathe differently.
Absolutely. One of my best friends in life, he always says a phrase, how you do anything is how you do everything. So just think about that. Like how you approach things in life, it's how you approach everything in life. Like if I'm going to cheat myself in this workout, right? You go to LA Fitness or whatever you have, you working out and you know you want to do a certain amount of reps and you're like, I'm not doing 10 and I'm gonna do 8. Then you're going to cheat yourself out on that drive to your job. You're going to cheat yourself out of that opportunity to make that quote or reach that deadline at your job. And then you're going to have things happen. It's just how you do anything is how you do everything. And at that point I said, do I want to sit here and work at a recreation center and just chill and kind of coast through life? Or do I want to be assertive and be, what my calling is, whatever it may be, don't know it yet, but do I want to find out? And that was the choice I had to make. I didn't want to, just succumb to statistics. I wanted to make sure that I can be a voice to my community and do something positive to where people, they look at you. You don't know it, but they look up to you. Right. I mean, there's a lot of kids that was at those Beechcroft High School games that I've run into 10, 12 years down the line. And they're like, man, I remember when you used to do this. I'm trying to play like that. And you don't know that they're watching, but somebody's always watching.
Yeah. And now you've actually took your passion of basketball into a space of, building up the next generation. So now you spend, and I would love for you to just share with our listeners, like what got you to a place of when you recognized you were not going to play ball anymore? Like when did you come to a place of saying like, ball gave me access to, my college opportunities. But now I'm not going to play, obviously, in the NBA or go back to play overseas. But I still want to be connected to the game in some way. And how did that lead you to what you're doing right now with young people?
So I played semi-pro for 3 years and actually helped me finish my undergraduate degree. And once I got done doing that, I started chasing after that overseas stuff. And I just didn't know what I was doing at the time. But I always knew I had something to fall back on. And once I made a decision, like, you know what, I'm going to hang up the shoes to play at a level to where I'm getting paid at and just try to transition to something else. I still had so much in me to give. And during my time in undergraduate studies, I also had the chance to be a student assistant coach for 2 years at my college. And when I did that, that was like one of the most fulfilling things I've ever done in my life. And when you're passing knowledge to people, it's a different kind of fulfillment than it is when you're actually doing it yourself. And to me, my degree was in education. So it kind of like coincide. If you're coaching, it's teaching, right? It's the same thing, same principles. And when you give someone an instruction or give someone something to do, to work towards, and they do it and they have that sense of accomplishment, to me, that's one of the greatest feelings in the world. So it was a no-brainer. When I went to Alaska again after college, after I graduated. I moved to Alaska and...
You moved?
Yeah, I moved.
He willingly went back.
I was like, I think I missed. I'm a foreigner. I'm like, did I hear
It was all
move?
part of God's plan.
It was a part of his plan. I went up there and with intentions to do something basketball related, but life kind of took me somewhere else. And I started, I worked in the recreation center and then I went to UPS. I work for UPS. I'm a current manager at UPS right now. And I just had this itch. I wanted to get back into coaching. So I visited home in 2019 and I went to Beechcroft basketball practice. One of my best friends, he's like my brother. His name is Humphrey Simmons. He's the head coach for Beechcroft. And I went into his gym and I was there for 2 hours. And I visited home for 9 days. That was the best 2 hours of my entire trip. Just being in the gym around those guys, feeling the energy. He even let me coach. He even let me talk to him. And I mean, these kids don't know me from who know what, but they knew that once he gave me my flowers at that time, he was like, oh, this is the guy to listen to. Yeah. And I said, you know what? I need to get back home. And once I got back home in 2020, it was a no-brainer. Coach Simmons said, hey, you home. You know where you need to be. And I went straight over to Beechcroft.
Wow. That's awesome. So now you get to help young people kind of find and see, like, I think representation is very important. And I think for our young people, especially like in Columbus City schools, it's so important for them to see, one, somebody of color, two, to see someone, a male figure, right, that has done some of the things they're looking forward to. But then also what happens when your plans don't go according to plan, right? Because a lot of the kids, sadly, they have a couple of dreams, either going to play football, like professionally, or basketball. And if that doesn't happen, they don't have a plan B because that's what their family's invested in. That's what they think is the only shot out of wherever they're at. but then they see you and hopefully they see something different. So in this role that you have now, and not just coaching, you also are a mentor. Right? Like they sometimes even look at you as a tío, not tío, uncle, or like father figure, right?
Yeah, they all call me Unc.
Right? So how...
Then you getting old, man. I'm sorry, but when that uncle, like that term is like an elder term, and I'm like, don't call me aunt, don't call me nothing, just call me Tina or Christina. Like, I don't want to be aunt, but go ahead.
I like, in Spanish is better tía. You can call me tía. Tía is cute.
I don't want to be tia. Yeah.
Auntie, like, I don't know, but tía is cute for me.
Okay.
What has been some of like your biggest, you mentioned that was very fulfilling for you, right? Like being those 2 hours, that's probably what you knew. Like, this is what I need. This is what I'm meant to do. Like, I think when you find joy, that spark, and you follow that. What has been some probably like the biggest or best stories that you have had now being back home and doing this work?
Man, we got enough time?
Yeah.
I'm kidding. So, I mean, everything about it, it's first, I'm home. I'm in Columbus. And secondly, I'm at Beechcroft. Like, not many people can say that.
Right.
You know,
it's
if they have
full circle.
Yeah, it's a full circle.
It is.
You know, and just having the ability to come back and still see some teachers who was there when I was there, you know, just see some familiar faces, and they're like looking at me and they're like blown away. Like, oh my God, I've been here too long. Like, you know.
Right.
But I think that just being able to walk in that gym and see kids that, you know, have the same background as me, that grew up, and I grew up with I have great parents. I have my parents, you know, they were awesome. They put me in great positions to be successful. They were the ones who were like, hey, you have a choice to do A or B. A is good, B is bad. Look around you. What do you want to do? There's a lot of people who chose B, and they gave me the option to do that. So I want to do the same for those kids. You know, like, hey, listen, you can go pro in something other than sports. There's a lot of professional jobs out here.
Right.
Like Coach Simmons always mentioned, like, yeah, you know, you think the people who wipe up the sweat at the NBA games, they make $60,000 a year.
Right.
They work for a professional organization. They go on pro. Like, there's doctors, there's lawyers, there's things that you can do in the field that you find passion in. You could be a professional at. Nowadays, I mean, there's people that talk for a living. There's people that, you know, they're model or whatever you want to do. You can be a pro at something. Just find whatever you have a passion for and just do it.
Right.
But in the process, find something that makes you happy and work towards it. And right now they're basketball players and that's what they want to do. And I try to teach them those life skills through athletics.
Yeah.
You know, how to be able to work with the team, cooperative learning, discipline, you know, pushing yourself, you know, working through adversity. All those things happen in the workforce.
Yeah.
You know, you just have to learn it in certain ways and then attribute it to wherever your craft is or wherever your profession is.
Absolutely. And I love that you said also just kind of like in retrospect, understanding that, you know, you may have to make multiple detours before you really land on what your purpose or your it is. And I think oftentimes if, you know, you weren't successful in college or you weren't successful in business, you can instantly just get to a point where like, oh, it wasn't for me. That was a sign. Like, I'm supposed to just walk away and not do it anymore. And you could have easily came back from Alaska and said, you know, I'm done with basketball. Like, I'm not coaching, I'm not helping, I'm not doing anything, you know, but allowing yourself to really think through like, no, basketball is what brings me like fulfillment. Like, I just have to figure out, rework the plan. And I think oftentimes we can become stagnant if things don't work out exactly the same or that the way we envision
the
them
blueprint
to work. The blueprint looked a little off. Then we're instantly just kind of in this, we can get into this negative space of thinking cynical. Like, yeah, like, oh, well, it didn't work for me. It's not going to work for you. And you don't realize that you're giving off that type of energy. And so the power in being able to say like, no, it didn't work. You know, I might not be, to your point, like the star on the court, but I'm still a part of the game. I'm still making my contribution. And I love that you talked about just, you know, that feeling that you had when you came back for those 2 hours, because in life, it's all about contribution. And I think if people can understand that monetarily, like, yeah, like I could probably go and make 6 figures doing something else. But to me, it's about the contribution and the money and all that stuff. It finds its way to you when you're in the lane that you're supposed to be in.
Absolutely, it does. It finds its way to you. And like I said, I work for UPS. I love my job. You know, it's my passion, though. My passion is basketball. It's always been. And I'm fulfilling that right now by just mentorship and just coaching and being around those guys each and every day. But my job allows me the freedom to do that, and that's my profession. I'm a profession. I went pro in logistics. So,
Okay.
but yeah, I mean, find what makes you happy. At the end of the day, we only got one life, and people become robotic doing things, going through the motions. They got that 40-40-40 rule. You ever heard of that? 40, you work 40 years you work 40 hours a week for a company for 40 years and retire with 40% of the income that you made total.
Wow. That's
sad.
Write that down, guys. Taking your notebooks out, everybody. We're doing 40-40 here.
40-40-40. I mean, and it's just the way that things happen.
Yeah.
But in those 40 years of working, did people find something that truly made them happy? So to me, it's family. That's why I moved back home to Columbus. Basketball and my kids. My kids, I have two kids. I have two boys. I have a 7-year-old boy. His name is Raylon Almon Jr. And I have a 5-year-old boy. His name is Christina Almon. And they are pretty much carbon copies of me. They love sports. They love activities. They love being active. And being able to, be in their lives too as well, as a father, that's pretty dope. So they feed off of me, and I don't even have to tell them to do anything. I don't put what I like on them. They just kind of gravitate towards me. And so I think that's the energy that you need to have by finding what you love, because people and your offspring, they gravitate towards what you do.
Yeah. And generationally, things have changed so much. We were talking about this in a past episode, just as millennials, and then you got Gen Z, and you have, so it's just, I don't know, what are your thoughts? Because I feel like generations have shifted so much, whereas before, like my parents, like there was never this concept that you were to look for passion and purpose, and it was it was more of like, no, you get a check and you go home at the end of the day, and there was never this concept presented to us about being able to have meaningful opportunities in the workforce. And so now, much more aware of the opportunities that really do present a lot to a lot of people. So I don't know if it was just certain populations knew about that, because my family didn't know about it.
Mine didn't care about
culturally,
it.
like Latinos, I think we just, you work 2 and 3 jobs.
Put your head down.
You put your head down, you work, you just get it done. And now this concept became more of a thing where it's like, no, you can have more opportunities to have meaningful.
You should enjoy what you do.
Enjoy what you're doing. My dad, you could go talk to my father right now. He's gonna be like, "That's bullshit. Don't be listening to those people." Like, because my dad is still old school. It don't matter.
He didn't grow.
He has not grown in his mind. He still works 2 and 3 jobs.
He's with the 40, 80, 30,
he's
100.
Yeah, he's gonna go to 100. Yeah. Because in his mind, it's still like he sees us and he's like, "Y'all generation, you don't know nothing about." And I'm like, because we don't have a poverty mindset.
Right.
I'm not focused on what I don't have. I'm not focused on, not, spending money and feeling like I'm never going to be able to recoup that or replenish that.
Right.
And so to your, now as a father and you're raising 2 sons, is there a struggle between, you mentioned you have really good dynamic parents, which is such a blessing, and it makes a huge difference. But oftentimes I feel like there is a struggle between some of how we were raised and what was generationally appropriate then, opposed to what is generationally appropriate now.
Yeah, I mean, it's life. Life, like things happen, things change. It's evolution. Evolution. That happens. So, I mean, you mentioned your parents, the blue collar workers. That's what we call them, right?
Yeah.
They grew up in a blue collar society. You punch the clock, you punch out, boom, you get your check, you eat, you live, you raise kids, you develop them. Well, as time moves forward, people try to find ways to circumnavigate that robotic mindset of what we're doing each and every day. I'm working at 8, coming home. I got 4 or 5 hours to do regular leisure work and clean my house, this and the third, and then I got to sleep for 8. Like, that's not what happens nowadays. People are like in our generation, we're more so aware, like, oh, let's find what we want to do, this and the third. People who are in the next generation are instant gratification. That's what they look for.
Yeah.
What's the quickest way I can do? Yeah, I want it now. What's the quickest thing I can do to get the most money? I'm gonna go on YouTube, get viral. So it's like things happen and people evolve and your mind evolves. And the newer generation kind of actually helps us because they knock off the the dust cobwebs that we had from our parents growing up, and be like, you need to find you a job after you graduate college.
Settle down, get married. Have some kids. Like,
I mean, if we're talking numbers, like people go to college and then they come out of college with debt.
A lot
of debt. And then you get a job that pays you at let's say the mean average is like $40,000 a year for an average income for one person, right? And you come out of college with, I don't know, $200,000 of debt, depending on what field you're going to. Right. So now you're working, and you're never really truly inching into that debt.
Right.
You know? So why do that if you don't have to? That's what people are thinking now.
Yeah.
You know? But I'm not discouraging people to not go to school.
Yeah.
I want people to go to school.
But just to know why.
But just know what you want to, just to have an idea what you want to do. Try it out. You know, go there, see if you want to be in broadcasting, see if you want to be in any type of field that you like, go for it. If not, you don't have to. You're not obliged to. Me, I'm an athletic person. I went to school and played basketball, and I got a teacher's education degree. And that was cool. Yeah. I did it, you know, like, and I did it the way my mom wanted me to, and my dad. My dad was like, get there however you can get there. I got an athletic scholarship. Then once my athletic scholarship was up, my academics allowed me to get an academic scholarship to finish that school. So I did it both ways, you know, and I'm just a kid from Eastside Columbus, man. I'm Livingston and James, you know, I'm right there. So anybody can do it. Yeah. You know.
And I love that because I think sometimes, like, if you're going to experiment, right? If you don't know what you want to do, like, that's cool. But, like, experiment at a Columbus Community College, right? Like, don't go to, like, a $40,000 a semester to try to figure out what you want out of life. Because that's my only concern, right? With people that are not guiding our kids right.
Because people put this stigma on community college, which is so stupid. It's just like community college. And it's like, yes, that's a great tool. It's a college. It's a great tool.
And also,
and I love that you said that. I was like,
listen, now, like, I think, what was it, this year, the Columbus City Schools, and quote me if I'm wrong.
The Promise. Columbus Promise.
Yeah, Jesus. Last year was our first year rolling that out in partnership with City Council. And it's an amazing opportunity to go to school for free. Like, they're going to pay for everything. Whether you had a 2.0 GPA or not, like, you can apply, get your associate's degree for free.
For free.
Such a great opportunity.
It's an excellent opportunity. It's for 3 years or something like that. I don't know. So you have 2.5, 3 years to figure out what you want to do and get it for free.
Figure it out for free.
And then on top of that, if you got jobs that's offering you an opportunity with a certain type of degree as a pre-qualification, boom, you got a degree that you didn't have to pay for.
Right. And they'll probably pay for you to go back because they need so many people.
They're like, we'll finish it for you. You want to go for one more year to like Ohio State?
Right.
Exactly. That's what, and people do that. A lot of companies do that. Like, say you got your undergraduate and they'll pay for your master's. Like teaching, like teacher jobs, they have an opportunity to do that as well. Yeah. So like people, do that all the time. And then that what's that? I Promise?
Columbus Promise.
That's beautiful for kids, give them a chance to figure out what they want to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's something that we pray for, I think, for a long time. Like, man, like
I wish I had a promise.
Right? Like,
now that Christina today, the promise would work. But Christina back in the day, I still was not disciplined.
You're not in the mindset.
I was not. I got so much student loan debt, and I ain't got no degree, and I'm still sitting here paying on student loans, and I'm like, wow, this is
the worst.
Never gonna end. So to your point, I wish I had been more guided and aware of like what I was good at, what I wanted to do. I had no direction. So I just signed up for college because I'm like, that's what everybody does. I already had my first kid. So, I'm 18 with a baby trying to figure out like what I'm going to do, and ended up just floating through college and still lost because I feel like the way college is set up, and I'm not trying to, ruffle any feathers, but the whole undergrad process of like taking a bunch of courses that doesn't really tie to like what you want to do,
courses,
you lose the discipline and the motivation. And if you don't have discipline and you're not taking classes that actually excite you for the end game, for people like me back then, I was like, man, I don't want to do, I hate math. And I got to pass math to go on to do what I really want to do. Honestly, I had credits for almost everything. And I was always, I'm just going to take a break when it came time for the math classes, just because I just was I'm like, I'm never going to pass math. And I just couldn't get through it. And so now I'm like, damn, my husband always asks me, he's like, you ever going to finish? I'm like, we'll see.
It has to be a degree you like, though.
It's always there.
It's always there. And I feel like one day
Maybe.
When these kids, grow up and I'm bored, maybe.
Well, you're never gonna be bored, so let's stop that.
So it just
we have too much
maybe it's not in
going
the
on.
cards for me. But I think education is important.
It
like
is.
my husband, he has multiple degrees. My daughter's in college. My sisters are all grads. So I mean, I believe in education. I just believe that you need to have a real plan and be strategic. Because to your point, I feel like a lot of professions, you can go get a credential, you can go get an internship. You need some type of higher education. So I do have enough credits for an associate's degree. But if I didn't take those business classes, the business classes actually is what motivated me the most to want to be in business, even though I never finished with a bachelor's.
And that's valid. And like to my credit, like I said, I utilized my craft to get me through school. I honestly believe that if I never played basketball or did something athletically that would allow me to get a scholarship, I probably would have never went to college. And that's the thing. That's the thing that people can look forward to. Like you play football, you play tennis, you play volleyball. Utilize that to get you where you want to go. Because to me, it's a free meal ticket.
Yeah. And now they're paying
It's a tool.
college athletes. How you feel about that? You're a little too late.
I'm a little.
You're a little upset,
I'm a lot
right?
too late.
I was like, wow, they're playing college athletes now.
It sucks because you go out there and drop 30 on a team, and everybody's celebrating you, and then you go home to a couple bags of ramen noodles,
listen,
some hot
struggle
dogs,
meal.
Tampico juice. You got stuff like that. That's just the way it is. That's evolution. That's what happens. I mean, it took a lot of things to take place for people to understand that getting paid for your name, image, and likeness is definitely the way to go.
Right.
Because it's a lot. Being a student athlete, I'm gonna give you a small secret. You're not a student athlete. You're an athlete, student athlete. Your body goes through so much. You're required to do so much just to fulfill that academic side of the bargain. Athletically, you do so much: workouts, study hall, more workouts, weightlifting, conditioning, training, practice, all these things that you have to do on top of 15 hours of class work throughout, throughout the week. Got 15 credit hours or 18 credit hours, or say you pick up a minor or something like that. You have more work, but you have so much that you have to do physically. I think that being able to be, compensated for your name, image, and likeness when you are wearing the jersey and you're out there performing at a high level, I think you should be compensated.
I agree.
It's a job.
It is.
Like you cannot work somewhere else.
No.
Because you don't have the time to make money.
And legally, I don't think you can when you're playing college ball. They don't let you have some sports. You can't have jobs.
Yeah, you can't have no work study program. Or,
no jobs and no pay. Like what was that about?
I don't know.
Yeah, and I remember in 2009 I had a project at I had a speech that I had to give, and I had a persuasive speech that I had to give, and I was talking about the guy Ray McElrathby, who had this story that was on Disney Plus where he was taking care of his little brother. He played for Clemson, and he was taking care of his brother, but he had no money. His parents were addicts, and they lived in Atlanta, and he took custody of his brother while going to college, but they almost didn't let him do it, and he had to go to court to win it over. Now, if this happened now, then no problem. He was a star safety for the university. Things like this needed to happen, for this NIL stuff to come about. So I'm happy for these kids nowadays to have that opportunity to get some money in their pockets while they're going to school.
And I think it's important that we educate young people. And I'm sure you're having those conversations with your guys, especially the ones that are on track to go off into, college and professional opportunities. Because I think it's important for us to continue to educate young people as best as we can as to what's to come, how to prepare, how to be more strategic about things as it relates to financials and managing and all of that good stuff.
And options, right? Like what options do you have? And I think you do a good job telling them what options, because you had them, right? So
yes.
You're learning life experience now is helping other people. So it's a blessing for others, right? Because these kids now have like a backup. And maybe if you tell them about the Columbus Promise, they will be very excited about it.
Because
not everybody's taking it.
They should know.
But it's different when like somebody, like a teacher you don't like tells you.
Right. But
when somebody cool tells you, they're
right.
like, oh, you know what?
You're right.
He went there. There must be something, right?
Yeah.
And I speak from experience. I have a niece, she refused to go. And I'm still working on her to get her to Columbus Promise because I'm like, this is such a great opportunity. But I also have to understand it's her time and when she's ready. But it's such a great opportunity. So telling people is so important.
That's the thing. You have to, you can be the source of knowledge. You can give out free game. but it's about the kids and what they choose to receive and what they apply. You know, at the end of the day, you give them, what they say, you can lead the horse to the
They can't make them
water,
drink,
but you can't make them drink, right?
So true.
So just continue just creating that awareness and continue to push that and continue being an example, because there was people before me that was giving me game about what I eventually did. So all I'm doing is just paying it forward. And the best way to me pay it forward is coaching. So if they see someone who's done that and they're looking and they're listening and they're receiving information from that person, they're more inclined to follow the steps doing that. Now, you can't just be out here just recklessly just giving out stuff if you ain't done nothing. That's different. But when you have the credibility, it's easier for people to follow.
I love that. Raylon, thank you so much for coming. I feel like this was a very enlightening conversation, and I feel like you gave a lot of game today, just in kind of giving insight, perspective, and really helping people think about, you know, just the direction. The strategy might change, but
different options,
and understanding that, you know, you just sometimes you got to go a different course to get to the end game, and that's okay. And so thank you for being here. We really appreciate the opportunity, and we'll probably have you back. You know?
Man, listen, I'm happy. I'm happy to be here. I appreciate the opportunity. This is fun, you know, and anytime you want me to
You're
come.
going to have a good season, right?
We got to.
Look at the pressure.
I was at the championship game last year. And I mean, the boys did good, but you know, it was a rough a rough game. But I believe this year will be different.
You know, that's just the foundation of motivation for this year. So I'm looking forward for this season for these guys. We open up tomorrow at Toledo Rogers tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
So we go up to Toledo tomorrow, and I'm excited for these guys. It's a brand new team, and they're young and they're youthful and they're full of life, and they're just eager to just become better. We'll see tomorrow if all the work is going to pay off.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Raylon. And we, as you know, we always like to end all of our shows the same. It's bigger than you.
Thank you so much for listening today. We're excited, and we hope that you follow us on
Instagram, True Print for Life, YouTube channel, also True Print for Life. And make sure that you share, like, watch our videos. Make sure that you follow us on all streaming platforms.